back, baby. Hey everybody, it's WillBits, and we didn't have a thing last week, but we're here now in the end of an Xmas Carol, and let's talk about the things. I think it's time to talk about the event, not just in what's happening right now, but the event as a whole, over what kind of things we've gone through. There's been some neat stuff added, but a lot of things that I think have been really kind of unpopular, so let's get through the new things and talk about it. Last week, of course, was Power Suit Leela. A cool scientist. I've enjoyed having her. She may join my regular rotation just because of how much I really like scientists. We were, of course, also able to recruit Kwanzaa. A lot of people are still working on him. His drops are really, really aggressively bad. Like, between the Turbo Neptunian and Kwanzaa, there have been some really just, I think, tone-deaf drops going on in the last couple of weeks. And then, of course, Ethan Bubblegum Tate, who, one, is not a scientist, even though he's a globetrotter, and two, is a globetrotter, because I was really hoping we were gonna get, like, a globetrotter event, and we still could. He could come back, but I think, notably, he didn't do very much of anything last week. The only real reason to get him was because he had a 50% chance to remove Electrify from all allies, which is what Snowmotron put on everybody, but you have to get him up to level 60 and 4 stars for that to be usable. And if you can get a character up to level 60, you don't need their passives. You don't need them. The system has kind of put in a lot of really neat things, and then also made them useless in a way that's really frustrating. And I'm going to talk about that more in just a bit, but I want to also look at the new characters that are coming in this week, and how that relates to the PvP that we all have or haven't been doing. Fry, talk to me, buddy.
That was a mistake.
Okay, we're not... Oh, there's not even a quest pop-up. It just says, recruit Robot Santa. How do we do this? He is a scientist. Putting compost in the recycling bin. You've been very naughty. 750 Santa coins. That's pretty modest. What's the catch?
My head was built with paradox-absorbing crumbles.
And, okay, you actually can't see it because I have more than that, but the only requirement for unlocking Robot Santa is to have 365 of the Nebula Orbs. Those are what you've been getting all week if you've been doing PvP, and here's why that's kind of a crap move. One, it's really hard to get 365 Nebula Orbs in just 1 week. Before I press the button on it, if you look at the featured things, I can see I haven't bought a lot of these decorations. I actually meant to, and then just didn't get around to it. But I have 459 of them sitting around, so I've got it. I'm good to go. But a lot of people aren't, because if you've been going through and buying, like the snowplow of the future, the hovering ice cream truck, the frozen Neptunian Yeti, who I guess is new here, 250 of these. There's a lot of really expensive things to spend orbs on for the week. It's very easy to miss if you have been loading up on Elzar Neptune billboards or the Nutcracker bombs or any of these things that actually cost a lot of them. It's really easy to spend yourself down below that level and find yourself a really hard time catching up. So there are some ways to do it. All is not lost, but it would be nice if we had had some kind of, like, just from week 2, as soon as the Nebula Orbs showed up, if there had been some kind of notice of, like, hey, by the way, SantaBot gonna cost a lot of Nebula Orbs. Maybe we don't even know how many yet. Save them for him. Just for future reference. It's really, really nice, and not even that bad to have, like, a set goal of, like, this is your grand prize, here's something to look forward to all week. That can be enticing as a thing. Just some stuff that I was thinking of, because a lot of people are really mad about this right now, and I can understand why. Before I click on him, let's see what Bender has to say.
Everyone. Bender, didn't I warn you last year about impersonating me?
Yeah, you said, quote, play Santa again and I'll kill you next year.
And what year is it?
Next. I'm done talking. Speak to my attorneys.
All right. Learn about Santa's upgrades. Have Professor use the thing longer. Go ahead and do that since that'll take an hour. Robot Santa and his army can freeze your crew members, which will make you unable to move. Be sure to level and promote your characters to overcome their new powers. If all the power suits are in your crew, then Power Suit Professor gains resistance to freeze. So here's been my question from the get-go. Does he get that just because they're all in the party? Or do you have to have leveled them up to 4 stars to actually enable that? Because it's in the 4-star slot. Power Suit Professor is of course sitting over here in the Xmas Exchange. He's gonna cost you 50 Nebula Orbs, so again you need even more of them, although that's an easier amount to get right now. And you need 100 of, what are they called? Teal Topazes. Okay, that's his power gem. We'll finally be completing the Power Suit Posse today. That seems relatively easy to get, depending on how easily the 100 Teal Topazes drop. The other character we can get this week is Snowmotron. 750, once again, Santa coins to place him. He's a robot. The only thing frosty about me is my heart. Let's place both at once and just see what happens.
I am so mad about global warming.
Hey, they do. That's not going to be awkward at all. I've put 2 people in the exact same place. What could go wrong? The medals that it will require to get Snowmotron, again, it's actually kind of hard to show off, are actually 12 of the week 1 Hanukkah medals. You need 10, 8, and then 6 of the most recent weeks. I think I've got everything except the snow medals, so I'm going to have to go back and do that a couple of times. Oh man, these bouncing locks are hypnotic, juggling the things. Santa! Okay, we got Santa. Woohoo!
I'm dreaming of a red Xmas.
Got a cut off on the last syllable there, but that's alright. Xmas in the trenches, that quest is complete. Fantastic.
I ain't no jolly happy soul.
I wonder who voiced this guy, because this was not a character in the show. He has never appeared in Futurama before, and he has lines, so I like it. Sounds a little like John DiMaggio. I hope they got him to record some stuff. I hope you guys are getting work if you're watching this and laughing at how bad my impressions are, because I know they're bad. But, yay! That's cool at least. I have 0 turbo medals. I'll have to go back and get 4 of them in order to show him off. But let's see what SantaBot has to say.
You may have defeated me, but Xmas will never be Xmas without Santa.
That may be true, but at least we won't have to fear for our lives during the holidays.
You wouldn't have had anything to fear if you weren't so naughty.
We humans to be naughty. I have a tank top that says so, but I'm too shy to wear it. That's pretty funny. Okay, quests, these are optional. Do these at your leisure after you finish everything else. Although if you have SantaBot this early, you're probably not stressing, because this week looks easy. We don't even have a premium character, so once again, I feel like either you caught up and you're going to be coasting through this week, or it might be good news if you're behind on KwanzaaBot or even maybe the Turbo Neptunian, because you might have time to finish up week 4 and then just kind of in the last day or 2 really quickly get this last week. I feel like we've had a lot of things fall just slightly behind schedule, and whatever intended, like final grand finale has been intended for the last event, for the last week of the event, gets nerfed to the point where if you're there, you're kind of like, Alright, well at least we're done. So you end up having a good feeling about that, I guess. You may notice my characters are crazy overleveled right now. Make judicious use on Saturday at 4 p.m. the Nixon Bucks Arena. It is so good for getting these guys really high leveled, and I love seeing SantaBot as a scientist sitting there. Even though he should be a villain, I like scientists better, so I'm more likely to use him. Actually, before we do that, Let's look at his stats. What does he do? Why is he worthwhile? Why was he worth all of this? Robot Santa Claus. His 2-star, you've all been naughty. He deals 10% increased damage to brainy, cool, and brave enemies. So if we ever get a different class, that won't work. But right now, he just does 10% extra damage to everybody. That's good. He has a basic attack, has a 5% chance to confuse enemies for 4 turns. That's a low chance of happening, but they're gonna be confused for like the rest of the match if it hits. And with an AoE attack, that means it hits potentially 3 enemies at once. That's also very strong. I run Xmas. Special attack has a 15% chance to freeze enemy for 2 turns. This is a good character. This guy may be worth leveling up a little bit. Wow. Expect to see him in PvP for a little bit. Let's go ahead and grind out some of these other requirements just so we can look at them. Hours of grinding later. Alright, I actually, I fought the Snowmotron boss the first time, and got a medal that I didn't need, but then I fixed it. And I've beat Turbo Neptunian 10 more times to get his turbo medals. Oh, so we can get Snowmotron.
You never seen a robot snowman before?
Have I seen a robot snowman before? Where have I seen a robot snowman before? I have to have seen it somewhere. What's up?
Hey, Snowmatron, how's the weather? I'm a lonely snowman, so it's cold in multiple ways. Oh, emotionally. What you need is some friends. Ones who appreciate your pessimism and your proclivity for cold climates. In other words, not me.
Okay, more quests. Yada, 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 yada. Those are easy peasy. And let's also get... That's right. I did a lot of grinding. 100 gems. Create. Rush it for 2 pizza. No, thank you. Good news, everyone. I can now sleep standing up. Cool. Nice suit, Professor. Cribble crabble. This blasted thing has been nothing but trouble since I put it on. Its core function is to brush my teeth while giving me a shave, and it couldn't even do that correctly. On the plus side, your teeth are free of stubble, and your face doesn't appear to have any cavities. Alright, once again, we get a series of quests to pick up at your leisure. Let's look at their stats, because that's what we really care about on this new stuff. Snowmatron, you are a robot. Of course you are. You return 10% of damage dealt back to the attacker as damage. That's nice pretty early on. I think a couple other tanks have that similar ability. Rolling Thunder, special attack will also remove Electrify from all allies. So handy, once again, if more things like that come along. It's good to have a few options. I'm pretty sure that's what Bubblegum Tate does. Building up static, basic attack has 20% chance to electrify an enemy for 2 turns. So if you have an electric themed team, he's gonna get along really well with Power Suit Leela. And then Power Suit Professor. Power Suit Professor! This would be his second captain skin. Power Suit critical attack does 30% more damage. That's pretty nice, actually. If the Power Suit Professor's HP is at 100%, he has a 100% to attack again after a basic attack. That might go really good with some taunts, but he's probably not going to stay at 100% for very long unless some kind of other shield comes into play, because random attacks means even 1 damage nullifies that attack. It's pretty great for the beginning of a PvP fight, because if he's going first, he's gonna hit twice and does extra damage. So getting that, I assume critical attack is the timed hit when you tap it at the right time, so it's actually more worth it than usual to pay attention to that. And then otherwise, so supposedly, if you get all 5 of these guys hanging out together, they are just supposed to be resistant to freeze and take 20% reduced damage and do 20% increased damage to Xmas bosses. That's pretty nice, especially if you don't have to level them up to like level 60 to get it. Let's give you some levels, Professor. Ah, yes, we have to level you up to 10. I forget this process. You'd think I'd be used to it by now. And then we use our 2-star badges to promote him so that he has his more arms, more pain. I thought he was just falling apart, but he's doing like a like cover model sort of pose thing. I'm not gonna put too many levels into him because I don't have that much cash right now. I've only got like 80,000. I know some people are like, not very high, put him up to 20, that's so high, but it's not anymore. We're in a level 100 man's game where level 20 is basically just barely having the character at this point. And that's weird. I wish there was a better way of testing these guys. But, so part of my problem that I have right now is I can't get to the big showdown without grinding like a lot more reindeer, a lot more PvP fights, and I just don't have access to those right now without either wait, like I actually can't spin pizza to make more reindeer appear. I'd have to wait around for literally like 2 hours in real life for more of those to show off and progress further in extra missions. And eventually I'm gonna get locked out to some of these things, I think, on mission advancement, which is a bit of a bummer. And also most of these bosses, you actually can't use your teams against. If you notice, going against Turbo, you have to use Hanukkah Zombie. Against Kwanzaa, you have to use the Turbo Neptunian. And against Snowmatron, you have to use Kwanzaa. So along those lines, the only boss I can actually test against is Hanukkah Zombie, because he's the only one that only requires one power suit, being Power Suit Fry, who I have at 45 for the purposes of doing the still probably a little overtuned bonus mission. But if I can just quickly assemble the Dragon Balls, here's these guys, check them all out together. Recommended level's 25. I'm a little under-leveled, I think, due to Professor, but everybody else is 30 or higher, so let's check it out. I like Professor's ult image. That's pretty good. A lot of people have kind of boring ones, but I really appreciate when we get like extra silly ones like the Professor's just there.
That was a mistake.
So like at level 45, Fry does about 520 damage natively. Let's just see what he hits for. He still doesn't get to go first. Doesn't even do that much more damage. Maybe it'll do more when it finally... Let's buff everybody up and throw out some pain. Oh, that actually hurt him. I guess because he doesn't become immune until he summons somebody new. So I could have hit him straight away. Let's do that now, actually.
But I believe we'll forever carry the pain on the inside.
Yeah, 596. He does slightly more damage. Yeah, I don't know. Overall, that was kind of underwhelming. I'm a little underwhelmed. I mean, like, maybe those will be super nice against Santa Claus bot, because then they won't freeze as much. So that might be handy, but otherwise, I don't know. These guys are a little mediocre, and I wish they weren't. I think that was working, even without, it may not have. That may have just been the buff from the captain buff being used, in which case, maybe you do have to level them up to 4 stars to get their bonus, which I think you're better off just leveling up a team that you're gonna use more often in other things. And that's basically just kind of the theme of the Christmas event here, for the most part, is that, like, I'm glad that everybody has a flavor, that, like, there feels like there's a more niche purpose for everyone, but for the most part, those flavors are really, really weak. Almost everybody just has, like, sometimes a 5, 10, or 20% chance to do something extra, but that procs just rarely enough that it's not really worth the resources, which is often sometimes hundreds of thousands of Nixon bucks and career chips to get them to a place where they're actually in any way meaningful. Like, you're really better off just getting lure and some scientists and the characters you were already leveling up for other things, and just dumping far more resources into them and having one really strong team versus having a versatile arsenal of different people. Maybe that will change weeks and months into the future when we start having multiple level 60 characters, multiple level 100 characters, and at that point, if you have like 20 different level 100 characters, then you're like, oh, this is an electrical fight. I'll pull out my Snowmatron and my Robot Leela. Oh, this is a freeze fight. Let me go get my power suit team. Like, maybe at that point that'll be interesting, but that's going to be hard to balance fights for because that's always going to be really, really difficult to hit. As it is right now, getting past level 60 is a really, really difficult ordeal because in running these current fights, the level 45 path that gives one more box is actually really, really difficult until you have either all delivery boys at 45 so they go first, or characters at 46 or higher so that they can have a speed boost to get past the other characters. That's not as big of a deal in the 3-star badge path, but in the 4-star badge path, you have to be level 60 to even start running it, and everybody's hard capped at 60 until you get 4-star badges for them. The map is incredibly difficult with just level 60 characters, so you're almost better off repeatedly running a 3-star path to get all of your different badges and just dealing with that extra grind rather than dealing with the 4-star badge path. It's kind of a huge headache. It's going to be a massive, massive plateau for everybody. It certainly has been for me until you can get at least 2, 3, 4 characters up into the 4-star range so that once they're like 61 and preferably even higher, if you have like 3 level 80 characters, that map's going to start to become a breeze and actually be worth grinding. That's going to take a long time for people to hit that point. It's just a huge gap to get over. So but that level 60 area is where most of the characters start to get interesting. They don't even have access to all of their passives until you get to that level. So it's like, of the things that get added, we didn't really have access to it, and then by the time we get access to it, the hardcore players who I've been playing since the game launched, I have months of experience on this sort of stuff, and it's taking me, this is our 3rd week since, or almost our 4th week since this stuff has come out, and I have a couple of level 60 characters, nobody over that yet. A new player is going to have a really, really, really long learning curve and grind before they get characters who are even close to stepping to me in PvP. The new season just started and I'm in Bronze 4, but I was fighting against people who are like still had level 10 characters when I first logged in as the event was starting up. Those people have no chance against me right now. How hard is it going to be when more of us are above 30, above 60, and beyond? It's going to be really, really difficult to balance for, and that is kind of a pain. I wish that the levels had come in slower, like maybe if the max was level 40 or the max was 35, and they had just tipped it in a little bit, and they didn't need us to grind and pizza drop quite so hard on the Daily Planet mission to get these characters up. Like, not that I don't mind, in that, like, it's kind of fun to have a character who's wildly overleveled for the content because it becomes really trivial, but that triviality makes it difficult to challenge me and hard to balance for new players. I wish the badges had been attached to levels kind of separately from everything else that we've got. If, like, giving these characters 1, 2, 3, 4 stars was independent of maxing at this level, then grinding for badges could be made a little bit easier and a little bit different of a grind, and those could just be that unlocks the passive and the level is different. That's what I thought it was going to be when things first came in, and instead they've accidentally made it such a stumbling block that a lot of people have rage quit the game just out of, like, throwing their hands up because they realize how much time, how much money, how much pizza is going to be required to get the lower level characters matching some of our new higher level big boys. Yes, the Daily Planet helps. It's a lot. But again, that runs into the other problem that fuel is a problem. We only get a finite amount of it. We can only have 84 at a time, and it takes something like 14 hours to completely refill that all the way, which is nice for being able to, sleep all night, but bad for it taking, 2 days to not even get 2 full tanks of gas. And we've been needing to grind both the space missions incessantly because the drops for gyms have required you to spend almost all of your fuel on the gyms, plus do the daily missions, plus pick up any other extra things that you've been needing. There simply isn't enough fuel. And yes, spending pizza on fuel is one of the more cost-effective things that you can do as far as spending pizza. It still leaves a free-to-play player who cannot afford to put pizza into the game way left in the dust. Way, way, way behind. On top of that, since you're worried about the daily missions and maybe not grinding out all of these event buildings as fast as you perhaps should be, then the drops for Turbo Neptunium, the drops for Kwanzaa were slow, were sluggish, were labeled as common and uncommon, and then didn't drop at those rates. So I know some of you are still, like maybe just now getting the Turbo Neptunian, just now getting the Kwanzaa because even though you did everything right and maybe we're checking in every 6 hours, every 4 hours, sometimes you miss 3 or 4 times in a row. I did. I had to rush the building drops in order to actually be caught up in time to do everything this week. That's a problem. I check this game a lot. I check this game probably more than most people playing the game do. So I know some of you have had worse luck than I have in that regard. Some of you may have had better, and that's great. But either the drops need to come faster, or they need to be labeled correctly, or at least, or they need to come out more often because it's very, 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 very frustrating. And a lot of people are going to miss out on these last 3 characters just because they may run out of time. Outside of that, the characters, I think the other thing is, like, I bought Bubblegum Tate, the premium character, and the only thing that he really provides a benefit for is that his passives make him better at handling that week's boss, but you don't have the resources to actually make use of that most of the time. Again, you're better off leveling up your scientists, leveling up your main A-team, versus actually dealing with the premium. He should have helped with Kwanzaa drops. He's a globetrotter. I don't know if they celebrate Kwanzaa, but you could probably write that into his fictional bio. That would have made sense. And then those drops that were already really sticky, then you could at least let the middle tier premium player feel like they got value out of Bubblegum Tate because maybe his 2 4-hour tasks gave guaranteed drops for those drops that were otherwise really stingy. It feels like that mechanic was intended to be in the game, and they maybe got skittish at the last minute because they were worried about gating content behind premium characters, and I understand that mentality, but you can't have it both ways of leaving it really difficult and then having a premium character that doesn't do anything, because then your paying customers feel like they didn't get value, and everybody's stuck behind the same gate that just becomes a weird time sink. It becomes a different kind of premium gate because instead of being behind a character you buy, it's now behind if you can afford to rush out the buildings. And that doesn't feel as fun. Buying a character and having them do tasks at least feels like you got an advantage for buying them, even if they were temporarily useful. That's something that I feel like we used to have and has been more common in other Tiny Co games, and they sort of dropped it recently for some reason. I'd like to see, I'd like to see a return to that, in that, like, the premiums have felt really underwhelming, basically since the Omicronian invasion. I think they took criticism of premiums a little too much to heart, and they've nerfed the usefulness to the point where, outside of completionism, there's very little reason to get and level these characters anymore. They either need beefier passives to make it more worth putting the resources into leveling them up, or just something to do. I finished his quests, and then Bubblegum Tate has just been getting Nixon bucks for me. That's all he's gonna do basically forever now, unless they give me a Globetrotter event, which I would like. Just overall, there's been a lot of really good ideas that have fallen short on the implementation, and I think it can be fixed. I don't know how you put the genie back in the bottle for the level 100 business, because some people, whether they're hackers, whether they're whales, whatever has happened, some people have definitely already hit level 100 characters, and I don't know how you bottle that back up, because that's a huge investment, especially if they're just whales who have spent money. That's a huge investment that they've done. It's hard to go back to that, but at the same time, I worry about how early this game is progressing to a model that just says, well, we're leaving newer players behind, and that's just going to be part of it. They're always going to be going through the story, and it may take someone months to catch up to where the events are tuned to be. It's kind of a mess, and it probably shouldn't have been implemented at a time when most of the staff was going on vacation for Christmas. It was really ambitious. It was crazy ambitious, but I think it's kind of made a mess that is going to be hard to fix now that it's out and live. What do you guys think? Should they just nerf the levels back down? Should they make them cheaper? Should they just leave people at level 100 and just design content for level 30 characters, which is what this event has kind of done, except for the Santa's AIDS map, which was geared for like level 40, almost level 50 characters, but then it was an optional bonus thing. I worry about there being two games increasingly where one game is targeted at like me, where I'm supposed to be playing with characters that are like 50, 60, eventually 100, and then a lesser game for new players that stays at level 30 that never really goes anywhere, because it's gonna start feeling like we're disconnected, like the game is leaving people behind. It's a game design challenge. It's really complicated. I'm curious if you guys have any ideas, because I'm not sure how you would even fix this at this point beyond saying, well, levels above 30 are for PvP and for whales, and everybody else we're just going to stay at level 30 indefinitely. Is that the solution? Or is there something more elegant? Let me know how you're doing. Are you stuck way behind, or have you scooped up the new characters and are wrapping up and picking up these extra decos? Because once you have, like, I've got the characters. I've got them. I'm done. The only thing left to do this week is finish out the quests, do the challenge whenever it shows up, and then pick up all of the other things on the stuff. And there's some cool buildings here, but they're not gonna do anything. The robot torture chamber is gonna need a lot more gems. You're gonna get the surface-to-surface rocket launcher, the workstation, and an ice fortress. Those all drop currency. Those are probably all going to drop Nixon bucks after they come out. Those feel like those should have been dropping things for Snowmatron or SantaBot or a lot of other things. And as it is, the week's just kind of done. Pick up these decorations. The big bonus prize for difficult things is probably going to be, like this frozen Neptunian Yeti. I need another 200 Nebula Orbs to get them. I might be able to get that in PvP this week, but it seems like the only way to get all of these decos and the characters that you need is going to be to actually buy the Power Suit Lab, as that drops in 4 orbs every 4 hours, guaranteed. And that maybe helps make up the difference, but again, you're gonna have to get that like right now, 440 pizza, to get absolutely everything, unless you did better in PvP than I did. I don't know. Pick up the decorations if you want them. Robot Santa Claus sleigh helps drop the gems, but they drop guaranteed from trees, in which there's almost always one every fight, so hopefully that'll be relatively easy to get. And you only need 100 to get all of the costumes and characters this week. Everything else is just optional decorations. So grind as much or as little as you want, fill out your town. Show me your Christmas towns. I'm sure you'll post them on the Reddit or elsewhere if you guys are doing well and are into it and are making some cool Christmas stuff. But as for me, I don't know, I'm kind of done for the week. Let me know what you think. Sound off in the comments. Sorry if this one was a little long, and sorry for missing last week, but we're back on this for now. Have a good one. Until next time.